Hey y'all, it's Papa Boko here to deliver your monthly forecasts. Doing things a little bit differently this go round. I'm actually going to start with the astrology and then move into the tarot. But before I do that, speaking of the astrology, full moon in Cancer horoscopes. Now, this is a new moon today in sidereal Capricorn, and I had written some horoscopes, some sidereal horoscopes for the full moon that happened 2 weeks ago. And so that is now up on my website. If you want to get it on the full moon or closer to the full moon, sign up for my newsletter, which is via the link in my bio. And look for, when you're reading them, look for your rising and your moon first, your sun if you really need to, or if you just want extra information, but your rising is going to be your best one. And also figuring out how to get that birth chart. I would go to thepeoplesoracle.com, click Sidereal birth chart. That's going to be your easiest way. But also you can just ask me and we can go from there. So today, February 1st, 2022 is the new moon perfects in sidereal Capricorn. And new moons begins, they set the tones for things, kind of creating this new story as the sun and the moon form a conjunction, which is just them going like this essentially, which is why you can't see the moon. So it's in Capricorn, right? And we have a lot of things in Capricorn. We have what we would call a little bit of a stellium, which is the moon, the sun as a new moon. Saturn is still in Capricorn and Mercury has joined us. It is retrograde, but it is stationing direct on Friday. And I wanted to focus a little bit on Mercury in this respect, but Capricorn in general and what this new moon is helping us reformulate is this new story around our collective neglect and how we're understanding what it means and what it takes to be resourceful when you've been neglected by reality. And what I mean by that is by the structures that are supposed to be in place that help us take control of the world and the environment when those things don't even know that we exist. And what does that actually translate to? It's your government. Like, just think about that word, government, and that we as citizens of a government pay the government with our taxes to help us with our basic housing needs, with basic survival. It's sharing the burden of survival in that way. But as we have seen and continuously see in America primarily, but around the world in different respects, this idea that the government is neglecting its citizens for its own gain, its own needs, for the people who are in power, to them receive funds, for them to be able to survive and be resourceful. They're using our resources to do that. So just thinking a little bit about how during this new moon, you're reformulating what it means to be neglected. And I don't even really mean that in this like philosophical sense. I mean, like, literally, like, how are you kind of coming to terms with the fact that you are being neglected? It's not a matter of you not having enough because you didn't work enough. It's because you just are being not given. They're withholding basic human needs that you need to survive in order to keep you where you are in that place, to disempower you. So how do we become more resourceful? How do we cope through or gain access to the gift of being resourceful, of kind of using what we have to get what we need, as we kind of push towards the collective new way of interacting and sharing resources and things of that nature. And how do you kind of confront that neglect? How do we sit there and we say to the government, almost literally, but also conceptually in America, like, how do we sit here and think about, okay, these are my basic needs. how are they not being met? How can I get them met? What are the ways in which I have access to doing that, and where don't I have access to doing that, and who does? And how do we kind of come together to collectively create something that gets us all that we need, because we can't all do it alone. And so Mercury is going to amplify. Mercury has been in Capricorn since the end of December, of 2021, like right at the end, the 29th. And Mercury in Capricorn is going to amplify that conversation. So since then, and because it hasn't actually left Capricorn, because of its retrograde site, because it started retrograding, going back, what conversations and who are you finding to be a resource for you? You know, where are you, and what conversations are you having that amplify your need to find resources, that help you discover the resources that you have, that push you to be resourceful? Like, thinking of how Mercury is doing all of this, and it's amplifying the need for control of your environment, of the material reality, and how do we, in our own ways, whether it's smaller or large, how do we go about doing that? How do we go about seeking that kind of control, and maybe even doing it a little bit strategically, and not necessarily it having to be this grand gesture, this grand moment. It's really also seeing how we can just kind of survive this mess that we're in, that is not of our own doing. So, and I mean that individually, and I'm talking to the Black and brown people, because white people, y'all need to get it together. So, and we're going into the tarot, which we got the Magician, and the Magician is a total, manifestation of what I just talked about in terms of taking back your power, and really discovering what that is, discovering your means, discovering your capabilities, discovering and having faith in what you may not be sure of. But, the Magician to me comes in, it is being resourceful. It is using what you have to create magic. And that's really the base of Caribbean religions, or religions that were conceived through oppression, right? Is this necessity to take control of your environment, or take your power back, essentially, which you've been disempowered. And you do that by using the resources that you have, coconuts, or, candles when they have them. And because at different points in different sectors in history, the oppressor and the colonizer is becoming aware of the ways that the enslaved are gaining spiritual power. And so they're and doing something similar now, where they're creating restrictions and boundaries that don't allow us to gain access to things that were considered powerful, that we create as powerful. But these religions still survived, our people still survived. And so the question becomes, how did they do that? And it was having to do things in secret. It was having to be resourceful. But that's where the magic also continues to be imbued. That's where spirit also thrives, because it comes out of necessity, but it's also coming out of a strong sense of faith in the power that you have within yourself, the power of the collective, but also this imagination, right? Which is the other side of Saturn in Aquarius, where you're having this imagination of the reality that we can actually occupy. So how do we use this opportunity to reimagine what resources are available, what we can do with resources, what are resources, and what do we need to survive, and how do we get access to it, bypassing these higher structures of power that we are seeing are doing nothing but neglecting us. So that's my word for February 2022 for this new moon in Sidereal Capricorn. I'm Papa Boko, and I hope to see you around.